Bismillah. He is the benevolent, the giving and merciful. He's so indescribable. His love is irreversible, word undeniable, lyrically untriable, ultimately viable, eternally supplyable, maybe inconceivable, but beautifully believable. The true reality, there's no similarity. Gave us more than charity, peace and prosperity. Why did we never care to see it? We can keep its clarity. The Almighty, the Father metaphorically, but in the history they tried to make his word a mystery. Gave him mortality, anthropomorphic fallacy. Say he's got a seed, they can never bring the proof to me. And honestly, the greatest, the best, beyond time and space, beyond matter and flesh. Yes, he's uncomparable, yet his parables infinitely listed pictures. Couldn't give a good description, the pictures missing. But he created all the living in every dimension, and he inspired what I'm giving, the giver of wisdom, devoid of any needs. Anything that he wants, all he has to say is be, cause he's the untouchable, infinitely trustable, his plan unstoppable, power untoppable, the reliable, undeniable, greater than the physical, master of the mystical, the master of the worlds, the fashioner of seas, the crafter of the universe, the atoms to the bees. He is love, he is truth, he is light, he is one, he is King Almighty. All credit, all glory, all praise goes to the one whose name is Allah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
And Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Karriem.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And let it open in prayer. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Say, I seek refuge in Allah against the accursed Satan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and thee alone do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path you bestowed your favors upon, and not the path you brought your wrath down upon, nor those who gone astray after hearing thy teachings. Amen.
Ameen. Well, welcome to season 3, episode 6 of the 99 attributes of Allah in 30 days. We're here to take the 4 attributes per day and go into their meaning and their usage in our environment. This year's theme is living by the book, attributes in action. Allah says in the Holy Quran, Allah, there is no God except He. To Him are the most beautiful names. Believe these beautiful names are the 99 attributes found of Allah found in Islam.
And the 99 characteristics of Allah, God, reflect the noblest of qualities and abilities. They represent the perfect ideal for the human being to inspire to. Islamic tradition says, derive your manners from the attributes of Allah. Therefore, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, is reported to have cultivate in yourselves the attributes of Allah. And our beloved minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, tweeted, when you have an attribute of God, you just strive for degrees of excellence in that attribute.
Now, living by the book, attributes in action. What we're talking about is not just a book with paper and ink on it. What we're talking about is men that represent the book. Let's hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the time and what must be done, where he will elaborate and elucidate and nucleate on that principle.
As we have been sharing with you in these broadcasts of the time and what must be done, the representation of the great Mahdi, or long-looked-for guide of the Muslim world, Master Farad Muhammad, who is the master of the wheel, and the great Jesus, the Christ. The Christ and the Mahdi are one and the same. For Christ means one anointed with power to crush the wicked. And the Mahdi is one also anointed to set justice in the earth and to set down every tyrant. And we are saying that in our humble judgment, he, the Mahdi, the Christ, is so magnificent. There has never been a manifestation of God like him. And when the Quran says in the 112th surah or chapter, and there is none like him, never has there been one like him who is the master of that great mother plane or wheel. He is the manifestation of all of the 99 attributes of Allah plus a few more, as Allah is always coupling his attributes in this manner. He's mighty, but he's wise. He's strong and powerful, but he's the forgiving and the merciful. He is the Avenger and the Destroyer, but his power is always balanced with his oft returning to mercy and his forgiveness. He's always balanced. We would have to do something so terrible that would allow him to unleash the fullness of the power that he has.
Powerful, powerful.
Praise due to Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Today, beloved brothers and sisters, we have a Muslima, a female believer. And let me tell you something. She is a mother, she is a wife, she is a sister, a lady leader, and a woman warrior. She is an attorney, as the Nation of Islam is judged by its woman, because the nation has no higher than this woman, and she should be allowed to rise to our God-given ability. And I bear witness that who you're about to hear from right at this time is one who is rising in the of Almighty God Allah by being a great servant of the believers and a great servant of her nation. I bring to you, brothers and sisters, the one who normally co-hosts the show, our sister, and she's going to bring you these 4 attributes from Allah the God. I'm talking about Sister Attorney Sadiyah Karriem. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah.
So I'm here with good company. I'm here with family, and I'm here
Don't be nervous.
with my, I know, with my fellow servants. It's different on the other side, right? So I'd like to open up in the greetings. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah who intervened in our affairs in the person of Master Muhammad. And I bear witness to our living and exalted Christ, the most honored Elijah Muhammad. And I bear witness to our divine reminder and wonder and love manifest in our midst. And I like to greet believers in the words of peace and peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And Ramadan Mubarak.
And Ramadan Kareem.
So praise be Allah. So these are the attributes that I try to cultivate and embody. I believe, no, I don't believe, I know that Allah has put me in the path when it comes to these attributes, along with the name Karriem. So praise be to Allah. So let's dig in. So the 4 attributes that Allah has blessed to present today is Al-Adl, the just, Al-Muqsit, the equitable or the Requiter, Al-Muntaqim, the Avenger, and Dharr, the Destroyer. Did I get it right?
Alhamdulillah.
Praise be to Allah. So Al-Adl. Al-Adl means the just, the embodiment of justice. And that is what Allah is. And the Quran Surah 16, it says, surely Allah enjoins justice and the doing of good to others, the giving to the kindred, and he forbids indecency and evil. He admonishes you that you may be mindful. So what does just mean? Just is an adjective, Things having a basis in or conforming to fact or reason, something that is reasonable. It means coming to a standard of correctness, proper, acting or being in conformity, what is morally upright or good, which is righteous, being what is merited, deserved, legally correct, and lawful. Justice. It's a noun, and it means the maintenance or administration of what is just, especially by an impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited rewards or punishment. It's the quality of being just or fair, conformative to truth, fact, or reason. It is that attribute that we were all made to be, is to be just and righteous and upright. Now, look at Allah, the just. He puts everything into its exact right space. He balances it, everything, with what our rights are. So our rights for the believing men, for the believing women. We all have rights. And I always bring this example, just as a mother and being a parent, you know, we as parents, we have certain rights, but our children well have rights. So there's a balance with the relationships we have as parent and child, of course, husband and wife as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he tells us, a just person is honorable. He says, I know a lot of us are called honorable, but we are justified in being, are we justified in being called that? He says a just man is an upright man. He's honest, he's righteous. He or she is moral and virtuous. He or she is principled, good, decent, is straight, truthful, and sincere. And if we lived in a world where we are just, what would the results be in our interrelationship? Husband to wife, mother and children, neighbor, community to community. And so even in this quote, he gives us some perfect practical examples on how to cultivate and demonstrate the attribute of al-adl. He says that you have to be ethical, you have to be moral, you have to be virtuous, you have to be righteous, principle, you have to be good and decent. Really, you just have to know who you are, which is a Muslim.
Absolutely.
One who submits their will to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Our next attribute is al-Muqsit, the equitable, the one who is just in his judgment. And Surah 3:18, Allah witnessed that there is God but he, and so do the angels and those possessed of not maintaining justice. There is no good but he, the mighty, the wise. And al-Muqsit comes from the word ki, which means scale or balance. Keys, the implanting of justice by taking what one unlawfully has acquired and giving it back to its rightful owner. Iqsat, one is given his unlawful share with which someone else unlawfully taken for or otherwise. And then you have Qasat, implemented justice. And so I see this on a daily basis, whether it's criminal court or whether it's in a civil court. And civil is really all about money and making people whole financially. When you wrong somebody, you've assaulted someone, you've injured someone, the court attempts to remedy that by sometimes they can't let you allow to slap the other person or injure them. So they financially, but the Quran tells us, right, that allow that situation in certain instances. And even in court, you know, when you have wronged someone in that particular state, and they try to exact justice on the person who has been wronged. Right. Well, Allah does that all the time, and he's perfect at his justice, because we Black people, we can try to get justice in the man's court, and we come out worse than what we went in.
Right.
And we see that all the time. That's I was looking in the news yesterday, and there's an 11-year-old little girl who is going to have a trial soon, and in it they charged her with murder. And then as I was reading, they speak in open court, violating all of her rights, and they dropped the murder charges, but they put tampering with justice or tampering with law enforcement. So, but when you look at that, we know that there's something not right about that. And so Allah gave us an innate ability to be able to exact justice and make things right. And to be able to sit in the seat of Allah by his permission to be the judges of the universe that we, again, as husband and wife, as parent, as leaders in the mosque in our community, we have a duty that's incumbent upon us. And so to make this practical, when you know right from wrong, when you ethically stand up, then you have to speak the word and you have to intervene in people's affairs to give them back what was unlawfully taken from them. That next attribute, wait a minute, let me read what the Minister Farrakhan says, and that says, in the Quran, the book of the scripture of the Muslims, we're commanded like this. He says, "O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witness for Allah, even though it be against yourselves or your parents, or relatives, whether he be or poor." Holy Quran 4:135. Says, this is what we are commanded to uphold. You can't try to protect those you love, even though they're wrong. And if you love God and love the truth of it all, you'll stand up for what is right, regardless of the consequences. The religion of Islam requires us to be so upright as to not be led astray by ties of relationship. Truth is never to be sacrificed to any interest, but every interest must be sacrificed to truth. Praise to Allah. So again, in that practice, the minister gives us the practical attributes of particular attribute al-Muqsit. He said, when you see wrong, I don't know who it is. You stand up for what it is right, regardless of what relationship that you may end up losing, because in the end, the most important relationship tie is the one that we have with Allah and the God within ourselves. Allahu Akbar. Our next attribute is al-Muntaqim, the Avenger, the discipliner, the inflictor of retribution. I know, right? And this time and what must be done. And Surah 30:22, it says, "And who is more iniquitous than he who is reminded of the messages of his Lord, then he turns away from them? Surely we exact retribution from the guilty." And so to avenge is a verb. That means it's action. It means to take it's for or on behalf of, to exact satisfaction for a wrong by punishing the wrongdoer. It means to disapprove, to pass unfavorable judgment on, to refuse approval, to reject, and then retribution means to pay back, to give in return as payment, reward, or punishment, to requite. And so when we are talking about avenging, it comes from, derived from the noun intiqam. Did I get that? Intiqam, avenging or taking revenge against someone. It's a penalty, is not, I know you have one of your favorite.
One of my favorite shows is intiqam.
We're gonna avenge. He watches Turkish shows, but I watch a lot of Asian dramas, and in that, it's always about retribution and getting vengeance, but it's equitable retribution. It's it's not something that we just do because we don't like someone, but we're trying to right a wrong. And as you heard the minister say, that his attributes are coupled. Right? You have the Avenger, you have the Destroyer, but it's coupled with his beneficence and his off returning to mercy. So before he goes into avenging anything, he gives us chance after chance after chance. And then we think that God is just a God that is just so beneficent that he's just going to let his creatures just continue to take the enemy's wrongdoing on us. But we're so blessed. And I think about Master Fard Muhammad. He talked about the Mahdi and being that for us. He heard our cries, right, from our taskmaster. He heard what the enemy had been doing to us for 400 plus years. And he came himself to avenge us, right, seeking to save us, but also to avenge us and to cast on those who would seek to hurt us. So praise to Allah. And then the Holy Quran 2:19 says, "And fight in the way of Allah against those who fight against you, but be not the aggressive. Surely Allah is not the aggressor." And sometimes we may see wrongdoing. And as you listen to me with the attribute before, when you see wrongdoing, you got to stand up against those who are being in the position of the enemy. But a lot of times we don't want to fight. We're afraid to fight. We're afraid to speak truth. We're afraid to physically do something. And even sometimes we fight with our prayers. We see what's going on with our brothers and sisters in the Middle East and Palestine. And we feel like we are unable to either help or to help seek justice for them. But Allah says vengeance is his. But the most that we can do for them, be able to give our prayers to uplift our brothers and sisters and ask for Allah to intervene in their affairs. And we know that he is. So praise be to Allah. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he says, a lecture that the nations are angry and wrath is come, and it is the time of the dead that they should be judged and give justice. And it was in the final call, September 24th, 2019. And he says, the Honorable Judge Muhammad said, when truth fails to bring justice about, truth should always lead us to a just conclusion. But if the forces of evil are so strong that truth falls in the street and it is not allowed to bring about justice, then the God of truth and the God of justice must physically remove power the forces of injustice. And that time has arrived. He says, I'm so happy to be in this beautiful city of Grand Rapids at a time when justice for us stands afar off. And we are not worried because we know him who is present to answer the cry of the people for justice. The Bible said it's so beautiful. It says, he heard the moaning and the groaning of the children of Israel because of their wicked taskmaster. And he said he was not going to send somebody, but he said, I think I will go down and see the cry that I've heard. And if I see that the cry that I've heard is exactly what I've heard, I will avenge him. Praise be to Allah. And I was there in Grand Rapids when the minister said that. And this was concerning our brother, dear brother, Brother Robert Muhammad. May Allah forever be pleased with our brother.
Amen.
And, you know, we, on behalf of the nation of Islam, we have been fighting to avenge his death because he was murdered. And so as we're talking about avenging, we know that Muhammad again came and he heard our cries from our taskmaster. But also at this time, if you don't already know, that the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is standing up for justice, is standing up for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and is standing up for Black people all across this planet and everybody who serves Allah. Why? Because a dirty name has been placed on Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Right now, we are studying, revealing truth and exposing the synagogue of Satan, a defense against the false charge of anti-Semitism. This is our way as believers, our practical application as believers at this dispensation of time, that we can be al-adl, that we can be the distressor, the requiter, the avenger, that we can stand up on behalf of our nation and behalf of our minister and behalf of the man who doesn't have a voice. Because when one comes to exact injustice on us, to put a dirty name, to say that we are other than what we are in the name of Satan, the synagogue of Satan, then we have a duty. And we know that Asafad Muhammad is on the scene. We know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is live. And we know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Messiah and the Jesus in our midst. And we have a duty and a responsibility, if we say that we are disciples, that we stand up and defend them. Praise be to Allah.
Oh.
And the last attribute is Dharr, the distresser, the one who makes harm reach to whoever he wills and benefit to whomever he wills. And when we say distress, extreme anxiety, sorrow, and pain. And if we are not paying attention to the weather, paying attention to what's going on in the world, we know that the whole planet is in distress. The enemy is in distress. And because we know that Dharr, the distresser, is on the scene and he's exacting that. But how do we make it personal? In our study guides, and I encourage you to get your study guides. It says in the opening, it says each study guide session is designed on the guidance of Allah to use self-examination, self-analysis, self-correction, and to quicken in each of us self-accusing spirit. But it's only when we are awakened morally that we have to face the self-accusing spirit, which leads to our resurrection. Resurrection is that process that begins with the self-accusing spirit and does not end until we become one in perfect harmony with Allah and his creation. So when we, a lot of times personally, we find ourselves in distress, we find ourselves in anxiety, it's because that self-accusing spirit is crying out to us, the God in us, because we have morally been led astray. We are being led astray. Now it's like a warning bell within us to get us on the right path, to get back on our deen, to the straight path. And so we thank Allah for the self-accusing spirit, that internal dialogue, the God within that we have, because as Brother Aleem always referenced, that although we may not be the supreme being, that Allah created us in his likeness and his image, and he did make us into gods, one with power as Allah. And he said that one who is in Allah is one who is a righteous person. And so we can't quiet the Allahs that are in us, the Muhammad that is within us. We must listen to that self-accusing spirit, because the distressor will give us distress. And so the practical application on that is to make sure that when we are going astray, or Allah gives us warning, he gives us sign, he gives it to us in the person of the master, the messenger, and the minister. But we are made in his image and likeness, and we are made upright. And so the essence of him is within us, and he'll give us a signal, he'll give us a warning, he'll bring people into our paths. And so, the practical application is to listen and to heed, so that we may be in distress, but we may be in peace. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in the Final Call prayer line in 2010, he said, so there is nothing that stands between the worshiper and the God who originated the heavens and the earth. It is your own prayer to Allah that will help you out of your difficulty. He says it is your prayer out of a sincere heart, for it is you who are the sufferer. It is I who am the sufferer. It is you and I who are petitioning God to relieve us from distress, from affliction. But remember, the Holy Quran says, quote, and when Allah relieves us of our distress and of our affliction, lo, we set up other gods beside him. Surely man is ungrateful. Quote, and let us not fall into that category of ingratitude. When Allah pardons us, when Allah forgives us, when Allah relieves us of stress and affliction, turn to him, celebrate his praise and glorify him night and day. For surely perfect praise of God relieves the believer. And again, here the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, he gives us practical application. Let's seek Allah through patience and our prayer. Let's find Allah in everything that we do and everything that we are involved in, and see people, because in our gratitude, he will bring peace to us, alleviate our affliction and our distress. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's dig into it.
Come on.
Let's dig into it. All right. So I look at the word al-Muqsit, right, which is one of the most beautiful names of Allah. Al-Muqsit is the Almighty, who is fair and equitable in his decision and decrees, who deals with everyone according to a system. Al-Muqsit comes to the rescue of the oppressed and brings about justice. And the Equitable says, and this is the ultimate end of equity, something which nobody can do other than Allah. Glory to him. And then he gives us a verse. And this is the verse I want to look at. Surah 5, verse 42. And what I found interesting in it, that it says, if you judge, then judge between them with equity. Surely Allah loves those who judge equitably. Now, what I thought was interesting is that the word judge that is which is wisdom. So if it says, if you judge with wisdom, then judge between them, or use wisdom between them with equity. So why do you think this relationship between wisdom, judge, and equity?
It leads me to what we're taught, that Islam is mathematics Islam. We can prove it in no limited time. Plus, when we're dealing with facts and scenarios, we're always dealing with not alternative facts, but we're dealing with actual facts.
Right now.
Even in dealing with facts, you have to come with wisdom with those particular facts, because, I'm in juvenile court a lot. And so you have a child, I just as an example, a child's brain is not even fully developed until they're about 24. So they don't have the experience, right, as someone who's 49 years of age. And so if I'm sitting as a judge, I have to have wisdom to understand where he is at that dispensation of his time. We talked about Al-Halim, being patient. Patience dears wisdom. And so as a judge sitting in the position or the seat of Allah, then you not only do you take wisdom, take the actual facts, but you also take that compassion, that mercy, and you couple it up, and you're able to be equitable to that young person. Now, punishment may be appropriate, but it's what type of punishment is appropriate for someone of that particular age. But that only comes with hearing the facts, knowing what the actual truth is, and comes with having wisdom, experience, and knowing that you're sitting in a seat of Allah and being able to be compassionate and exact that which you believe that Allah will do in that situation.
So we talk about equity, we're talking about discernment. Look at these four attributes. You know, people could easily confuse them, right? Muqsit and Al-Adha, right? One is the most equitable, the Requiter, the just. Another one, Al-Adha, is the just, the equitable, the impartial. But yet they have different shades of meaning. So when you looked at them, how did you differentiate between the two?
That's a great question. So the just, he embodies it. That is him. He is the truth. He is the just one. So there's nothing in the heavens and the earth that he has created that was not justified, right? And when we talk about love, when one justify, he is living his purpose and he's justified doing what it is that he was created for, right? So he's the just, to make the right the wrong, al-Muqsit, bringing balance to a situation when someone unlawfully or unjustly takes something. So he comes and he intervenes in our affair, and he makes that thing that went wrong to make it right and make it stand righteous. When someone intervenes in our affair, he exacts judgment on our behalf. When you talk about the Avenger, right? But before he does that, he gives opportunity. He's offered mercy because he is so just. He is al-Adl. He wants to make sure that you have an opportunity to get back to your state of being, right? Which is his essence. And then when we're not doing none of that, right, he puts you in distress as the distressor, and you're going to submit regardless, right? And even when he exacts his punishment on you, he gives you still an opportunity to come back, and he still embraces you. So they're all interconnected, but they're all different at the same time.
Yeah.
There's like degrees and levels to that thing, to these attributes.
And I love the example you brought of Muqsit, because I have my book on my tablet. And when you brought up the Palestinian piece, it just made me think about this. And it said the ultimate end of al-Muqsit is expressed in this particular surah, Surah 6, verse 133. And our Lord, in some translation, depending on what edition you have, it's 134. And the Lord is self-sufficient one, the possessor of mercy. If he please, he may remove you and make whom he pleases successors after you.
Right.
Even as he raised you up from the seed of other people. And it just, your point on that was so clear, because I wrote in my book, it says, and this Surah 6, 133 is a verse from the Quran to understand the ultimate end of the Palestinian conflict with the so-called Jews who are occupants of the Palestinian land. However, all must remember al-Muqsit will give it to whom he pleases, the righteous.
The righteous, that's right.
What do you think about that?
Listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's talk on a Ramadan call on Monday, and to be able to be connected to our brothers and sisters all across this planet. And when you see unrighteousness happen, we feel that pain well, because we're all one. And we know that Allah is on the scene, right? We know that he is present. We know that he's on the scene, and we're watching. As I'm watching the news, I'm watching it unfold in real time, how Allah is working out.
Yes.
Because the enemy is trying to claim land over there. But we know that righteous, even in the month of Ramadan, within the world, we see our brothers and sisters who are acknowledging Allah. They're not afraid of their life. I see the images of mothers and fathers carrying their children, and they're still crying out, Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. Right? And so Allah hears the pleas of the righteous. And we know that it's not going on deaf ears. We know that he is the Avenger, and we know that he's al-Muqsit, and he's going to make this thing right and fair. So, just the resilience and the strength and the faith of our brothers and sisters over there, we know that Allah is going to right this wrong.
Amen.
I'd rather be on this side
Right
than
side.
that other side.
That's a
It's
fact.
waking up the spirit of the whole ummah,
Yes.
you know, to an extent. And we saw the head of the ADL complaining about now TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about China. It's not about China. It really is about the fact that he got on Morning Joe, and he started complaining about the fact that it had not become, he didn't say Al Jazeera, but to the extent that it has become a place where there's a rise in anti-Semitism. So why are the politicians talking about TikTok controlled by China? Is that the real concern, or is it the fact that our young people are on TikTok and they're getting the images from the destruction of our people, not only there in Palestine, but also in the Sudan, also the Uyghurs in China, also what's going on, the chaos that's going on in Haiti, and all of our people around the world. And they're now getting their news from that, and they're seeing that, not the controls that is by our commercial stations. What about that? How does that tie into the fact that Muntaqim, the Avenger, the disapprover, the victor of retribution, now is putting in the minds of the people that very thought, we got to do something about this. Not necessarily in the way that Allah would do it, but it's getting in the minds of the people out there protesting. They're laying down now and stopping the New York Times delivery trucks from going out. And going into the lobby of New York Times, telling them stop the presses, free Palestine, stop the presses. There's a lot going on.
There is. And as you were talking about, Allah allowing generations to come from these people's seeds, they're attacking the younger generation. And he actually attacked the younger generation directly. And that is his fear, is that he can't control the generation, and the propaganda that spewing the Joshua generation is not buying. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, they tried to take him off of social media, but you stop him. That's what we all are, Farrakhans.
Right.
So we're just going to keep propagating and telling the truth. And they can't stop the truth.
That's
right?
right.
They can't stop the just. They can't stop the Avenger. You saw what happened to Starbucks, right? And social media. First, 12 days, they lost $12 billion. And that was the first 12 days from October 7th. And so we don't know what's happening. I don't know what that count is right now, but the masses are hearing the truth and they're awakening. The sleeping giant is awakening. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is that voice. He is that trumpet. And you can't stop that man of God. People are listening to the truth now.
That's true. And these enemies trying to control these algorithms.
Yeah.
You try to upload the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's Savior's Day lecture, and before it's finally uploaded, they will cancel it on YouTube saying that it doesn't fit any standards. How do they know that? Who is that? So that's not artificial intelligence. I was talking with Brother Abdul Qiyam today about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence actually comes out of the mind of a human being.
That's right.
So it's a human being that design those algorithms so that they can stop the truth or try to stop the truth, but it won't work.
So let me ask you a question on Al-Adl, because I want to deal with one of those 7 things that deter the will, that irredeemable quality, envy.
Yeah.
If you look at one of the most beautiful names of Allah is Al-Adl, which thank you for going over that word, the just. He allows proportions between his creation, equality based on usage or need. It is proportion, not an even or equal distribution between 2 things or more, will all receive the same amount, but what is fair, equivalent, or just in a relationship. Now, talk to us about how does Al-Adl can help one to not be envious if they're getting more because they have a larger family versus my family of 4 and your family of 7, 8, 9, right? Right. That's because Allah says He gives to you according to Al-Adl, which is according to your need or usage.
Right.
So talk to us about how this justice can hurl at the falsehood or at envy.
You know, Allah made us all in our unique way. We had that discussion a couple of days ago. And this said, Allah gives us what we strive for, right? So he made us, and you talk about that capacity. He will give us no more than what our capacity, our potential. And in that striving and in that potential, Allah knew what we needed. And so for me, example, with my family, mine, Allah continues to bless me because I continue to strive, but cultivating the attribute of Karriem being the generous. And it's universal law that in order to receive, you got to give up.
Right.
Right. And so people don't understand behind closed doors, the trials, the tribulations, the sacrifice that you make when Allah blesses you or elevates you. Right.
Correct.
And you may be on the outside seeing something, but you don't know what it really looks like on the inside, and all that, the trials, the tribulations, and the work that gets put in order to produce something that may look bountiful.
Mhm.
So man surely gets for what he strives for. And Allah is he's just in that, because I'm looking over there, but I'm not contributing. I'm not putting any energy in. I'm not putting any work in. That's unjust to receive that which I have worked for, I have toiled for, and I've prayed for. And faith without work is dead. So, I would encourage the practical application of that is, if you desire, don't envy. If you desire, and if that's what Allah would have for you, then figure out what it is that you were created in your purpose and work towards that. Because if you become the God in that area that you're in, he will elevate you in that. But don't envy somebody else, because if Allah tries to bless you with that, you may not be able to sustain it, because if it's going to require some work. I tell people, be careful what you ask for, you just may get it. Now, will you be able to keep it is the question.
That's right. It's
So-
a matter of character.
Yes, right.
Character. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, blessed is he or she who discovers their purpose and fulfills it.
That's right.
So that's very, very important. So in us looking at these attributes and sharing it with believers and trying to stimulate a high frequency level of thought, high level of thought on the highest frequencies possible. Speaking of Allah, sister, how does it feel when you were studying these attributes and then all of a sudden it you to this quote from the minister, this verse in the Holy Quran?
Mhm.
How did it go? All of a sudden, ooh, it's just like when you're preparing for a case, and you
Right,
find certain cases
Right.
that support your argument. How did that feel?
One, it's always, the process is always asking Allah for guidance, and opened up, in the name of Allah. In the class, we have to constantly be in the class. As a lawyer, I had to be in the class. I had to study the book, but not did I just study the law books. I had to study Allah's laws, and to be in the class of the gods, coming to my MGT class, coming to my Wednesday class, coming to study group, sitting in the circle of the gods, reading all of these books that we've been blessed, because this is wisdom in the knowledge of Allah himself that was given to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and honorable Minister Farrakhan. And then with just my own disposition, asking Allah to allow me to be who I am and to reflect his teachings, however it comes out. And so as I'm sitting here, because I love the word, I love the truth, right? We love the truth.
All right.
And, the best form of communication is divine revelation, and to be with others with high frequency,
Yes.
right? So I may be picking up your thought, I may be picking up your thought, or I'm listening to what you have to say. And I know you do this all the time. One word may send you down the rabbit hole, right? Like reading the Quranic read, tilt, right? Tilt. What is
Mhm.
tilt? It took me, I was stuck on tilt for about 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Because I find a lot in the spirituality and all of it, but as above, so below.
Why you tell everybody? I ran it over.
But that's the sign of a great student, because
Oh,
we'll
my
never return back with
Man.
the answer. We're always seeking that knowledge.
Wow.
Yeah, when you think about these attributes and Karriem, for last night someone sent me a text, and I just thought it was interesting, because earlier that day, I won't say what it was, but earlier that day, someone asked me the same question about something, and then I got a text later that night, 2 separate cities. I said, wow, this is interesting. So I put together a little PowerPoint called The Spirit of Farrakhan and the Blessing of Ramadan.
Mm.
Because I'm starting to understand, you know, we all have these, what we think things should be,
Mm.
right? But the minister comes with the spirit, having the proper spirit and where we should be. So you mentioned in your attributes, your different attributes, but you say, yes, I'm Karriem, along with the name Karriem, like Sister Sadiyah Karriem, Sadiyah Karriem. During Ramadan, you
Right.
Sadiyah,
Sadiyah.
right? So, but look what the minister said, and I want you to talk about this. The word Mubarak comes from the word barika. I love when he said that, right? Which signifies the continuance forever of the blessings which a thing possesses and from which extensive good flows. It possesses the sense of firmness, steadiness, abundance of good, exaltation, correction, and blessings. And then he said, and answer comes back from the believer, Ramadan Karriem.
That's right.
And it comes from the word karrema. Oh, I love to say that, right? Comes from the Arabic root karrema, be productive, generous, noble, precious, valuable, honorable, to overcome anyone in generosity, high-minded, beneficent, noble, illustrious, fruitful, kind, worthy of respect, fair, or holy. Now, how do you see that name you were given and the attributes that you went over today?
Praise be to Allah. We are exceedingly thankful, Almighty Allah, that we were blessed. My family, my husband and I, our family had been blessed with the last name Karriem, leaving 2017. And to take on the name, one of the names of the Christ, you know, is truly a blessing. And and for the minister to see us with those attributes is also a blessing because he sees us.
Yes.
And as the question you asked about dealing with the envy, you know, and baka, you know, the blessings that overflow, because there's something comes before being able to receive the bounties of Allah. He's merciful. He give us to who wants to. But when he blesses you abundantly like that, and he calls you, right? It is because your faith coupled with your works. And we strive to be generous, we strive to be honorable, we strive to be noble. And that's the conversations that I have with my children all the time. You know, when I see the ingratitude in them, I see the haughtiness, and I tell them all the time that Allah allowed us to be in the blessed positions that we are in, not because it's for our name's sake, but it's because to serve us. And it's a constant reminder that it's an honor and a privilege to have this, because at any time he could take our names away from us. And so to receive blessings and the bounty of the Lord, it comes with a duty, right, to serve. So as I was saying, I don't know what's on the other side of this to be able to be called Karriem or Muhammad. You know, you don't know, or Farrakhan. You don't know what it took to get to that place.
Right.
But that's why we put these attributes into action, and we continue to cultivate it. So I'm going to continue to be one worthy of praise and one that's generous, exalted, and, you know, taking on these attributes of Allah. And not in words, but in deed as well. And that's where that blessing really comes from, that overflowing of blessings and expanding of our territory and the elevation wherever we are in life.
Beautiful.
You know, there's a hadith by the prophet that sums all of that up, which I love. He says, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, no man earns anything better than that which he earns with his own hands.
Wow. Like, you know something, brother, in teaching 2.0, brother, you not read my mind. My mind.
We talk, man, this is
There's a question the minister was asked. What is God's definition of greatness? I know this world measures greatness by money and status, but I wanted to know, what is greatness from the eyes of God? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan responds, and I quote, in the teaching of Prophet Muhammad, he said, quote, he that is best among you is he that is most careful of his or her duty to God, close quote. That makes you great in the eyes of God, that you are mindful of your duty to him, your duty to yourself, your duty to family, your duty to community, your duty to all that you have been obligated to serve, close quote, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And what that reminds me of, brother, is when the Holy Quran says, oh, you believe, keep your duty to Allah as it ought to be kept, and dinas. And you said today in today's khutbah, right? You said, wait a minute, that duty is translated or transliterated as duty, but it really is taqwa, or God consciousness. You know, so brother, you said that, brother. I lit up like the 4th of July, man. I was like, I wanted to shout, but it was Juma. So you can say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. You can't shout like we normally do, but it is keeping that duty, sister, that earned the name, and it is a duty that will help you sustain the name.
Ameen.
Ameen.
Praise be to Allah. Ameen.
Ameen. Well, praises be to Allah. Brothers and sisters, now Sister Sadiyah is going to return back to her co-host role.
My official.
Take off your post at all.
I will keep my duty, sir.
Now you got to come back in that role like this.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to
Family,
Allah.
we
Excellent job.
pray that you enjoyed today's
wonderful.
episode, and I thank my co-host today for that banter and that dialogue, that spirited. Yes. So, all right, Sister Leah, who is our? All right.
Sister Kadira.
Kadira Muhammad out of Oklahoma, one of our youth, right? And she is forefront, our vanguard over there in Oklahoma. Praise be to Allah for episode 7, day 6, y'all. Episode 7, day 6. Praise be to Allah. Now, we ask you to follow us on 99 The One and 30. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram at 99TMBN. For today's replay, go to 45 Facebook, or you can go to YouTube at 99 The One, The Most Beautiful Names. And we ask you to subscribe on our YouTube page as well. We are also a nonprofit organization, so we are accepting donations. And remember, your donation is a tax write-off. You can donate on Cash App at the 99 The One, $ 99 The One, or via Zelle, 99TMB at gmail.com. Open up your cameras. You can do that right now if you want to. Put your camera on the QR code, and it will take you directly to the page. And we ask you to continue journaling. My brother's book, look, and he's a faithful journaler. Let me see if I can see. You journaling, right? See, he's journaling, y'all. And we want you to continue to journal. Order your book now, the Quranic Journal and Historical Digest, at shop.researchminister.com. And see where you are on day 5. If you start today, day 6, and see what happens on day 30. And see that Allah will continue to bless you, because these attributes will continue to grow and grow more in you. And with that, family, Assalamu alaikum and
Ramadan Mubarak.
Bismillah. He is the benevolent, the giving and merciful. He's so indescribable. His love is irreversible, word undeniable, lyrically untriable, ultimately viable, eternally supplyable, maybe inconceivable, but beautifully believable. The true reality, there's no similarity. Gave us more than charity, peace and prosperity. Why did we never care to see it? We can keep its clarity. The Almighty, the Father metaphorically, but in the history they tried to make his word a mystery. Gave him mortality, anthropomorphic fallacy. Say he's got a seed, they can never bring the proof to me. And honestly, the greatest, the best, beyond time and space, beyond matter and flesh. Yes, he's uncomparable, yet his parables infinitely listed pictures. Couldn't give a good description, the pictures missing. But he created all the living in every dimension, and he inspired what I'm giving, the giver of wisdom, devoid of any needs. Anything that he wants, all he has to say is be, cause he's the untouchable, infinitely trustable, his plan unstoppable, power untoppable, the reliable, undeniable, greater than the physical, master of the mystical, the master of the worlds, the fashioner of seas, the crafter of the universe, the atoms to the